It's UPBOptionMillionaires.com. It's about an hour after the closing bell here on this Monday, October 26, 2015. Look at the market. We closed lower. You would not tell by this chart. Going back 2 weeks, we've had a consolidatory phase through most of the start of each of the past 2 weeks, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday. Out of the woodwork come these buyers that ramp prices up, sometimes unexplained, other times like last week, Mario Draghi and his 4-hour spike to the upside, folks. When you have a pocket full of cash, you don't have to go to the hospital after encountering a spike 4 hours or more. Seeing your physician could be serious illness signs for the rest of us. Mario Draghi can spike that all day long. And then on Friday, we had China and Google and Amazon earnings help to boost S&P 500 futures up here. We pull back a little bit. Are we going to see this consolidatory phase take hold here the next couple trading sessions? Even if that is the case and we see a late week spike to the upside like we saw the last 2 weeks, earnings reports are going to help boost stocks or collapse them. American Express last week had a massive collapse, 5% to the downside. Options moved 600%. We had Google and Amazon move to the upside. Options moved several 100%. What kind of earnings trades are we going to have this week? Let's look at the VIX real quick, because I know the VIX I've been talking about is, a prognosticator of things to come, and it's been bleeding lower ever since the August crash. Today, up almost 6%. Oh my goodness! Get in that full-out shelter, but if you look, we had a spike on Thursday, we had a pullback on Friday, but the whole thing is trending lower. This is a new trend here to the downside. Melting! Hello! Help me, I'm melting! If you look also, the U.S. dollar index gave it up a little bit today. So that's, kind of taking the bearish scenario off, at least in the short term. I like the U.S. dollar index to rocket up and back into triple digits. And I think when that does indeed happen, you're going to see that affect corporate earnings. You can draw a trend line across. Look where we met resistance. Pretty important support here down just under 94. But I think if you look, again, from a 3-year daily chart, you can see this pattern. A lot of people calling for downside. I don't know. This looks very bullish to me. It's up over to 100 and to 6+ year highs, which is going to affect crude oil. Crude oil today, in spite of the pullback for the U.S. dollar, down almost 2% crude oil futures. Look at this. We're rolling over. Everybody was ready to send it all clear. Why you should buy oil? Here it is. Same thing with XLE, the energy ETF, pulling back almost 2.45%. What looked as a formerly bull flag is now breaking to the downside. I think energy, the crude oil, the U.S. dollar, all important things to watch going forward. The stock market's going to do what it's going to do in the short term, but long term, corporate earnings are going to suck if the U.S. dollar keeps going up. We have crude oil falling, energy falling. The debt for some of these energy companies are going to be written off, or they're just going to blow up, go bankrupt, and we're going to see energy continue to fall to the downside. S&P 500, look at this move we've had on the S&P 500 ETF, the SPY. The spiders all the way up. You just erase this crash like it never happened. Carl Icahn was talking about this danger ahead here a couple weeks ago, the start of October, and look at the move we've had ever since. I did not expect this breakout. Actually, if you look at this wonderful wedge pattern here, we broke to the downside. To me, that was confirmation. The market slapped me in the face, but in the face of this massive rally, of course, I wish I participated 100%. There were some great names to the downside, especially some earnings trades. When they had CMG come out, down 5% a couple weeks ago, Expedia. So we continue that theme, American Express last week. Also some bullish names. So individual names continue to work in this market up and down. One name I like to the upside, heading into its earnings report Wednesday after the bell, GoPro. Look at this. We're kind of stabilizing here at lows for GoPro. In the meanwhile, short interest throughout this decline has more than doubled. So I think as long as GoPro can fog a mirror for its earnings report, we're going to see a nice spike to the upside. And it's going to cost you a little bit to participate via call contracts. Looking for an over 10% move, meaning if you get out to the $31, $32 calls, which I have, you're going to be paying for a move up 12 to 15% to make any money on those. Also, earnings from Twitter. Now, Twitter, like GoPro, is also anticipating, or the option market is pricing in, a 10% plus move for Twitter. But you can look at this move off its lows to consolidation. You can see the support, and you can see the resistance here, a nice flagging pattern setting up. And I think ultimately, heading into November, it's going to be over $40. Call me crazy. Facebook broke to new record all-time highs today. Look at that close. What a move to the upside. Breakout, that head fake from its previous earnings reports. Look for Facebook to head higher post earnings. Now, another chart I like, really long term. I brought this up this weekend. You can look at Twitter. blog at optionmillionaires.com. GameStop doesn't really make sense if you look at the brick and mortar businesses, especially when you have everything online and portable devices. But GameStop, look at this chart. The cup and handle formation, I think 50 or 60 weeks is the max. But if you look at this pattern, it looks really good. This is a long-term cup and handle pattern. And you would have thought now with short interest up near record levels for GameStop that would weigh on the price per share. But no, the stock has held strong the last couple of years especially. It looks poised to break to new all-time record highs. I'm looking out to November there for GameStop. And finally, let's look at Apple, because Apple reports earnings tomorrow after the bell, and you can see the moves up we've had. I've talked about this many, many times over the last couple of years. This was the first leg, this was the second leg, and this is the third leg to the upside. I talked about this at the lows in May of 2013. Nobody believed me. I said we're going to hit new all-time record highs down here. Everybody thought it was the next Microsoft, and it was just going to peter out and head down to the 50s and 60s. And look what it's done. It's more than doubled from that point, head to new all-time record highs, but we're pulling back. Similar type pullbacks that we saw back in the financial crisis, and also back starting September 2012. So this earnings report, and if you look again from a 1 or 2 year perspective, the 1 year it's not as evident, but you pull back from a 2 year chart perspective, and you can actually see it in the 1 year here. We have nice, and you can even call this a nice bear flag. We had the highs that could not break here, the record highs, and if you look again 2 year coming a little more into focus, we have a nice topping pattern here, and then I think we're going to break. And you look at the start of it today, down 3%. We're going to break down under $100 for Apple before we find some support. So while some of the earnings reports from Google and Amazon might lead you to think that Apple's going to do well, or Alphabet, Google, I just can't call it Alphabet. Alphabet soup, but you can see the gap up we have for Google and Amazon. I talked about both of these charts very bullishly in the last couple weeks in my market videos, and sure enough, we broke the record highs post earnings. Now I'm talking about Apple. Brought this up, and I even said 119. That would not negate this pattern. You can see we've come perfectly up. Look at this. We came perfectly up to this left shoulder here before failing and pulling back. This even further emboldens my bearish perspective on Apple. So I'm going to get some puts. Did not get the opportunity today. Hopefully we'll get a little bit of a bounce, kind of engulf that candle a little bit up to the 117.50 level tomorrow at some point, and get into some options for a move to the downside. UPBOptionMillionaires.com. Everyone have a good evening. Again, some GoPro calls, Twitter calls, and some Apple puts. That's what I'll be looking for tomorrow. Everyone have a good evening. See you in the chat room. Goodbye.